From Ethics to Existence, Exploring Kantian Philosophy and Existential Psychology. Psychology at its heart is the study of the mind and behavior, but it is also deeply rooted in philosophical questions. What motivates human behavior? How do we make decisions? What does it mean to live a meaningful life? To truly understand the field of psychology, it is essential to explore the philosophical underpinnings that inform the theories and practices we study today. Among the many influential philosophers, Immanuel Kant stands out as a key figure whose ideas on autonomy and morality have profound implications for human behavior. Similarly, Existentialism, a later philosophical movement, delves into the deeply personal questions of freedom, responsibility, and meaning, questions that intersect directly with the concerns of psychology. As first-year psychology students, you are beginning to explore the vast landscape of human thought and behavior. You might already be familiar with psychological theories like cognitive behavioral therapy, which emphasizes the relationship between thoughts, emotions, and actions, or Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which centers on the pursuit of self-actualization. But where do these ideas come from? Many of them are deeply influenced by philosophical traditions, including the works of Kant and the existentialists. Understanding these philosophical foundations is not just an academic exercise, it is a way to deepen your understanding of the psychological principles that guide human behavior and inform therapeutic practices. Immanuel Kant, one of the most influential philosophers of the Enlightenment, provides a framework for understanding human behavior through the lens of reason and morality. For Kant, human beings are unique because of their capacity for rational thought. This capacity allows us to make choices based on principles rather than instincts or external pressures. In psychological terms, this idea resonates with the concept of self-regulation, the ability to manage one's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in pursuit of long-term goals. Think about a moment when you resisted a short-term temptation, like staying up late scrolling through social media, in favor of a long-term benefit, such as getting enough sleep for an exam. That act of self-control reflects the kind of autonomy Kant celebrated. The ability to act according to reason and principles is grounded in the idea of the categorical imperative, a principle that encourages us to act in ways that could be universally applied. For example, if lying became a universal behavior, trust would erode, making society unworkable. In psychological terms, this principle aligns with the study of moral development, particularly the work of psychologists like Lawrence Kohlberg, who explored how individuals progress through stages of ethical reasoning. When we examine how children learn to distinguish right from wrong or how adults navigate complex moral dilemmas, we are engaging with questions that Kant's philosophy helps illuminate. While Kant emphasizes reason and universal principles, existentialism brings a different perspective to the table, one that is equally relevant to psychology. Existentialism is concerned with the lived experience of the individual, particularly in situations where meaning and certainty are absent. Imagine a client in therapy struggling with a sense of purposelessness or existential anxiety, a concept you may encounter in your studies. This experience of questioning one's place in the world, of grappling with freedom and responsibility, is at the heart of existentialism. Thinkers like Søren Kierkegaard, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Jean-Paul Sartre explored these themes, emphasizing the importance of personal choice and authenticity in creating a meaningful life. In psychology, existentialism has directly influenced therapeutic approaches, particularly existential therapy, which focuses on helping individuals confront the anxieties of freedom, isolation, and the search for meaning. As future psychologists, you may encounter clients who feel trapped by their circumstances or overwhelmed by the weight of their decisions. Existentialism offers tools to navigate these challenges, encouraging individuals to embrace their freedom and take responsibility for their lives. For example, Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, drew on existential philosophy to develop logotherapy, a therapeutic approach that helps people find meaning even in the most challenging situations. Kant's philosophy and existentialism may seem worlds apart, but they intersect in their focus on human agency and autonomy. For Kant, autonomy is rooted in our capacity to reason and act according to universal principles. For existentialists, it is the freedom to define our own values and purpose. Both perspectives emphasize the individual's role in shaping their life, a concept that resonates deeply with psychological theories of self-determination. In fact, one of the most influential theories in contemporary psychology, self-determination theory, highlights the importance of autonomy, competence, and relatedness in fostering motivation and well-being. This theory reflects the philosophical insights of both Kant and the existentialists, demonstrating how their ideas continue to shape practical examples, consider the field of moral psychology, which investigates how people make ethical decisions. Kant's emphasis on universal principles can be seen in research on deontological ethics, which focuses on rules and duties. For instance, studies have shown that people often rely on deontological reasoning when faced with moral dilemmas, such as whether to tell a painful truth or spare someone's feelings with a lie. On the other hand, existentialism's emphasis on personal freedom and responsibility can be seen in research on moral relativism, which explores how individuals construct their own ethical frameworks based on personal experiences and cultural contexts. As first-year psychology students, you are likely beginning to see how complex and multifaceted human behavior truly is. Kantian philosophy and existentialism provide two lenses through which we can examine the psychological processes that shape our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Whether you are studying cognitive processes, emotional regulation, or social interactions, these philosophical traditions offer valuable insights into the human condition. They remind us that psychology is not just a science of behavior, it is also a field deeply concerned with meaning, purpose, and the ethical dimensions of human life. As we move forward, we will explore these ideas in greater depth, examining how Kant's moral philosophy and existentialism converge and diverge in their treatment of autonomy, freedom, and meaning. Along the way, we will connect these philosophical insights to psychological theories and practices, demonstrating their relevance to the challenges and opportunities of modern life. By the end of this journey, you will not only have a deeper understanding of Kantian existentialism, but also a greater appreciation for the ways in which philosophy and psychology intersect to enrich our understanding of what it means to be human. Kant's moral philosophy and its existential implications. To fully appreciate the intersection between Kantian philosophy and existentialism, we must first dive deeper into Immanuel Kant's moral philosophy. His ethical framework not only shaped modern philosophy, but also laid the foundation for understanding human behavior, decision-making, and morality, concepts that are central to the field of psychology. Kant's emphasis on autonomy, duty, and the dignity of human beings provides a structured approach to examining how individuals navigate moral dilemmas, regulate their behavior, and build their sense of self. These themes resonate with key psychological theories, making his work especially relevant for first-year psychology students exploring the complexities of around the idea that humans are rational beings capable of acting according to universal moral principles. This capacity for rationality is what Kant believes sets humans apart from other animals. It enables us to make choices that are not dictated solely by instincts, emotions, or external pressures. In modern psychological terms, we might link this to the concept of self-regulation, the ability to control our impulses, make deliberate decisions, and act in ways that align with our values. When you study developmental psychology, for example, you will encounter research on how children develop self-regulation skills, such as delaying gratification or resisting peer pressure. These behaviors reflect Kant's idea of autonomy, the ability to govern oneself through reason. Central to Kant's moral philosophy is the concept of the categorical imperative. Unlike hypothetical imperatives, which tell us what to do to achieve specific goals, e.g., if you want to pass your exam, you should study, the categorical imperative applies universally and unconditionally. Kant proposed several formulations of the categorical imperative, but one of the most well-known is this: act only according to that maxim, whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. In simpler terms, this means we should only act in ways that we would want everyone else to act. For example, if lying were universally accepted, trust would collapse and society would become unworkable. Thus, Kant argues, we have a moral duty to tell the truth, even when it is inconvenient. In psychological terms, the categorical imperative can be related to the study of moral reasoning. As you progress in your studies, you will likely encounter Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development, which describe how individuals' ethical reasoning evolves from focusing on personal consequences pre-conventional morality to considering universal ethical principles post-conventional morality. Kohlberg's highest stage of moral development closely aligns with Kant's philosophy, as it involves acting according to principles that are universally justifiable, rather than out of self-interest or social expectations. This connection underscores how Kant's ideas continue to influence psychological research on ethics. Philosophy is the idea of treating people as ends in themselves rather than as means to an end. This principle emphasizes the inherent dignity and worth of every individual, regardless of their social status, abilities, or achievements. In psychology, this aligns with humanistic theories, which emphasize the intrinsic value of every person and the importance of treating clients with respect and empathy. Carl Rogers, a pioneer of humanistic psychology, famously argued that therapists should offer unconditional positive regard to their clients, creating an environment where individuals feel valued and understood. This approach echoes Kant's belief in the dignity of all human beings and the moral obligation to treat others with respect. Kant's emphasis on autonomy and duty also has profound implications for understanding human motivation. While modern psychology often distinguishes between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, Kant's philosophy suggests a third type of motivation, moral duty. He argued that the highest form of ethical behavior is acting out of a sense of duty, rather than for personal gain or emotional satisfaction. For instance, consider a student who volunteers at a shelter not because it makes them feel good or enhances their resume, but because they believe it is the right thing to do. This kind of motivation, grounded in moral principles, reflects Kant's ideal of ethical action. While Kant's moral philosophy provides a structured framework for understanding ethical behavior, it also intersects with existentialist themes in important ways. Both Kant and the existentialists emphasize the importance of individual freedom and responsibility, though they define these concepts differently. For Kant, freedom is the ability to act according to reason and universal moral laws. For existentialists, it is the raw, often overwhelming freedom to define one's own values and purpose. Despite these differences, both perspectives recognize that being human involves grappling with difficult choices and taking responsibility for one's actions. Consider, for example, the existentialist idea of authenticity, the concept of living in accordance with one's true self and values, rather than conforming to societal expectations. While existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre framed authenticity as a personal, subjective endeavor, it is not entirely divorced from Kant's emphasis on acting according to principles we give ourselves through reason. In both traditions, the individual plays an active role in shaping their life and making decisions that reflect their values. This shared emphasis on agency and self-determination is deeply relevant to psychology, particularly in areas like therapy, and also resonates with existentialist ideas about the responsibility of choice. Sartre famously declared that man is condemned to be free, highlighting the weight of responsibility that comes with the freedom to make choices. For Sartre, this freedom can be both empowering and paralyzing, as it forces individuals to confront the consequences of their decisions. Kant's philosophy, while more structured, acknowledges a similar tension. The freedom to act according to reason comes with the responsibility to choose actions that align with universal moral principles. This idea is reflected in psychological research on decision-making and moral dilemmas, which often explores the conflict between personal desires and ethical obligations. To illustrate these ideas in practice, consider the field of clinical psychology, where therapists often help clients navigate ethical and existential dilemmas. A client struggling with guilt over a past mistake, for example, might benefit from exploring both Kantian and existentialist perspectives. From a Kantian standpoint, the client could reflect on how their actions aligned or failed to align with their moral principles and what steps they can take to act more ethically in the future. From an existentialist standpoint, the client might explore how their choices reflect their authentic values and how they can take responsibility for shaping their future. Both approaches emphasize the individual's capacity for growth and change, offering valuable tools for fostering self-awareness and resilience. Kant's moral philosophy also has implications for understanding the psychological experience of guilt and shame. Guilt, which arises from the recognition that one has violated a moral principle, can be understood through Kant's framework of duty and responsibility. In contrast, shame, which involves feeling fundamentally flawed or unworthy, may be more closely related to existentialist concerns about authenticity and self-worth. By integrating these perspectives, psychologists can develop a more nuanced understanding of these emotions and their impact on behavior. Finally, Kant's philosophy invites us to consider the role of morality in building a meaningful life. While existentialists often focus on the individual's search for meaning in a chaotic and uncertain world, Kant offers a more structured vision, a life guided by reason, moral principles, and respect for the dignity of others. This vision has profound implications for psychology, particularly in the study of well-being and flourishing. Research on eudaimonic well-being, for example, suggests that living in accordance with one's values and contributing to the greater good are key components of a fulfilling life. These findings echo Kant's belief that morality is not just a set of rules to follow, but a exploration of Kantian philosophy and existentialism. We will see how these ideas converge and diverge in their treatment of freedom, autonomy, and meaning. By examining these philosophical traditions through the lens of psychology, we can deepen our understanding of the human experience and the complex interplay between thought, behavior, and emotion. Whether you are studying moral development, therapeutic practices, or personal growth, Kant's philosophy offers valuable insights that remain as relevant today as they were in the 18th century. Existentialism, core concepts in philosophical root psychology, as you've already begun to see, does not operate in isolation. It draws from philosophy to understand the intricacies of human existence, particularly the lived experiences of individuals navigating freedom, choice, and the search for meaning. Existentialism, a philosophical movement that arose in the 19th and 20th centuries, delves deeply into these themes, challenging us to confront the realities of existence in all their complexity. For first-year psychology students, existentialism offers a rich lens through which to examine the human condition. It grapples with concepts such as freedom, anxiety, authenticity, and purpose, many of which are foundational to both psychological theory and practice. Unlike Kant's structured, universal approach to ethics, existentialism is intensely personal and subjective. The movement is not a single, cohesive school of thought, but rather a tapestry of ideas developed by thinkers like Søren Kierkegaard, Friedrich Nietzsche, Martin Heidegger, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Simone de Beauvoir. While their philosophies differ in significant ways, they share a common focus: the experience of being human in a world that offers no inherent meaning or guarantees. For psychology students, this exploration of existence resonates with the study of individual differences, emotional struggles, and the ways people construct meaning in their lives. At its core, existentialism begins with the premise that existence precedes essence, a phrase popularized by Sartre. This idea challenges the notion that humans are born with a predetermined purpose or nature. Instead, it suggests that we are thrust into existence without a clear roadmap, left to define ourselves through our choices and actions. In psychological terms, this emphasis on choice and self-definition aligns with theories of identity development, such as Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. Erikson's concept of identity formation, which often takes center stage during adolescence and young adulthood, reflects existentialism's concern with the question, who am I, and our own lives is both exhilarating and burdensome. Existentialists highlight the profound responsibility that comes with this freedom. With no external authority to dictate our choices, we must confront the consequences of our actions. Sartre famously described this as the burden of freedom, an idea that parallels psychological theories of agency and self-determination. When you study self-determination theory, for example, you will encounter the idea that autonomy, the ability to make choices aligned with one's values, is a fundamental psychological need. Yet, as existentialists remind us, autonomy often comes with the discomfort of uncertainty and the possibility of failure. One of the most significant concepts in existentialism is angst, or existential anxiety. Unlike the anxiety we experience in response to specific threats, existential angst arises from the realization that life is inherently uncertain and that we bear the ultimate responsibility for our choices. Imagine standing at a crossroads in your life, unsure which path to take. This feeling of unease, of being overwhelmed by the possibilities before you, is existential angst. In psychology, this concept is closely related to research on decision-making, as well as studies on anxiety disorders that explore the tension between freedom and fear. Another key theme in existentialism is authenticity. For existentialists, authenticity means living in accordance with one's true self and values, rather than conforming to societal expectations or external pressures. Heidegger, for instance, distinguished between living authentically, embracing the realities of existence, and living inauthentically, where one avoids responsibility by adhering to the status quo. In psychological terms, authenticity is often linked to well-being and self-concept. Carl Rogers, a prominent figure in humanistic psychology, emphasized the importance of congruence between one's self-perception and lived experience. When individuals feel that their actions align with their inner values, they are more likely to experience psychological health and fulfillment. Nietzsche, another influential existentialist, took the idea of authenticity a step further with his concept of the Übermensch, or overman. Nietzsche argued that individuals should strive to transcend societal norms and create their own values, embracing life's challenges with courage and creativity. While Nietzsche's philosophy can seem daunting, it offers valuable insights for psychology students. It encourages us to think critically about the social and cultural influences that shape behavior, and to consider how individuals can reclaim agency in the face of authenticity. For existentialists, authenticity means living in accordance with one's true self and values rather than conforming to societal expectations or external pressures. Heidegger, for instance, distinguished between living authentically, embracing the realities of existence, and living inauthentically, where one avoids responsibility by adhering to the status quo. In psychological terms, authenticity is often linked to well-being and self-concept. Carl Rogers, a prominent figure in humanistic psychology, emphasized the importance of congruence between one's self-perception and lived experience. When individuals feel that their actions align with their inner values, they are more likely to experience psychological health and fulfillment. Nietzsche, another influential existentialist, took the idea of authenticity a step further with his concept of the Übermensch, or overmen. Nietzsche argued that individuals should strive to transcend societal norms and create their own values, embracing life's challenges with courage and creativity. While Nietzsche's philosophy can seem daunting, it offers valuable insights for psychology students. It encourages us to think critically about the social and cultural influences that shape behavior and to consider how individuals can reclaim agency in the face of adversity. Existentialism also addresses the themes of isolation and connection. Sartre's famous assertion that hell is other people captures the tension between our desire for independence and our need for relationships. In psychology, this tension is explored in attachment theory, which examines how early relationships shape our ability to form secure connections with others. Existential therapists, influenced by these ideas, often work with clients to navigate feelings of isolation and to build meaningful relationships without losing their sense of self. Kierkegaard, often considered the father of existentialism, approached these themes from a deeply personal and spiritual perspective. He saw the search for meaning as fundamentally tied to one's relationship with the divine. For Kierkegaard, the act of making a leap of faith into belief was a way of confronting the uncertainties of life and finding purpose. While his focus on faith may seem distinct from psychology, his insights into the human experience of doubt, despair, and hope remain profoundly relevant. Psychologists today often explore similar themes, particularly in areas like positive psychology, which examines the role of hope and resilience. On meaning and purpose has had a significant impact on psychology, particularly in the development of existential therapy. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, drew heavily on existentialist ideas to create logotherapy, a therapeutic approach that helps individuals find meaning even in the face of suffering. Frankl's work demonstrates how existential philosophy can be applied in practical ways to address psychological challenges. For example, a client experiencing a midlife crisis may struggle with questions like, "What is the purpose of my life?" or "Have I made the right choices?" An existential therapist might encourage the client to explore these questions, helping them to identify their values and to take steps toward a more meaningful existence. In addition to its therapeutic applications, existentialism offers valuable insights for understanding broader psychological phenomena. For instance, the existential concept of death awareness, the recognition that our lives are finite, has been explored extensively in research on terror management theory. This theory suggests that our awareness of mortality influences our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in profound ways, often motivating us to seek meaning, pursue goals, or connect with others. Understanding this dynamic can help psychologists develop interventions that support individuals facing existential concerns, such as those coping with terminal illness or significant life transitions. For psychology students, existentialism provides a framework for grappling with some of the most difficult yet fundamental questions about human existence. It invites us to reflect on the choices we make, the values we hold, and the ways we navigate uncertainty and adversity. Whether you are studying clinical psychology, social psychology, or developmental psychology, the themes of freedom, authenticity, and meaning are likely to emerge time and again, offering opportunities to apply existential insights to real-world challenges. As we move forward in this exploration of Kantian existentialism, we will begin to see how these two philosophical traditions converge and diverge in their treatment of autonomy, morality, and human agency. While Kant offers a structured, rational approach to understanding ethical behavior, existentialism reminds us of the deeply personal and often messy realities of living a human life. Together, these perspectives provide a richer understanding of the human experience, one that bridges the gap between universal principles and individual subjectivity. In the next section, we will explore these points of convergence, examining how Kant's philosophy and existentialism can complement and challenge one another in their quest to illuminate Kant and existentialism. Having explored the foundations of Kantian moral philosophy and existentialism, We now turn our attention to the ways these two traditions intersect. While Kant's structured, universal framework for morality may seem at odds with the intensely personal and subjective nature of existentialism, there are striking points of convergence between them. Both traditions emphasize the significance of human freedom, the centrality of individual agency, and the moral responsibility that comes with these capacities. For first-year psychology students, this intersection provides a deeper understanding of human motivation and behavior, especially when considering the psychological challenges individuals face in navigating their lives. At the heart of both Kantian philosophy and existentialism is the recognition of human freedom. For Kant, freedom is not merely the absence of external constraints, it is the ability to act according to reason and self-imposed moral principles. This type of freedom, often referred to as autonomy, forms the foundation of his ethical system. Kant argued that true freedom is not about indulging every whim or impulse, but about living in alignment with rational principles that can be universally applied. From a psychological perspective, this idea resonates with theories of self-regulation and self-determination, which emphasize the importance of aligning one's actions with long-term goals and deeply held values. Existentialism, too, places freedom at the center of the human experience, but it approaches the concept from a more personal and existential perspective. For existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre, freedom is an inescapable fact of existence. We are condemned to be free, as Sartre famously put it, meaning that we are always free to choose, even when the available options are constrained by circumstances. This radical freedom comes with the responsibility to create meaning in our lives, often in the face of uncertainty and despair. Psychologically, this emphasis on freedom aligns with research on agency and personal growth, which suggests that individuals who take responsibility for their choices and embrace their freedom are more likely to experience existentialists view freedom not as a privilege, but as a profound responsibility. For Kant, freedom carries the moral obligation to act in ways that respect the dignity and autonomy of others. His concept of the categorical imperative, acting only according to maxims that could be willed as universal laws, requires individuals to consider the ethical implications of their actions on a broader scale. In existentialism, the responsibility of freedom is more personal but no less weighty. Sartre, for example, argued that by choosing our values and actions, we not only define ourselves but also contribute to shaping the world. This idea parallels psychological theories of prosocial behavior, which explore how individuals' actions can have a ripple effect on their communities and societies. Another point of convergence between Kant and existentialism is their shared focus on the individual as a central figure in moral and existential decision-making. For Kant, morality begins with the individual's capacity for reason and autonomy. Each person, he argued, possesses the ability to determine right from wrong through rational deliberation, independent of external authorities or societal norms. This emphasis on individual moral agency reflects the humanistic values often explored in psychology, particularly in the work of Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow. Both of these psychologists emphasize the importance of individual autonomy and self-actualization in achieving psychological well-being. Existentialism similarly elevates the individual, though it does so in a more existentially raw and personal manner. For existentialists, the individual is not only responsible for their actions, but also for creating their own meaning and purpose in life. This focus on the subjective experience of the individual resonates with the client-centered approach of humanistic psychology, which prioritizes the client's unique perspective and lived experience. In therapy, for example, a client grappling with existential questions such as, "What is my purpose?" or "What values should I live by?" may benefit from exploring both Kantian principles and existentialist themes. Kant's philosophy offers a rational framework for evaluating ethical decisions, while existentialism encourages the client to embrace their freedom and take ownership for the intrinsic value of human beings. Kant's moral philosophy is built on the idea that every person is an end in themselves, meaning that individuals should be treated with respect and dignity, never as mere means to an end. This principle has clear implications for psychology, particularly in the ethical treatment of clients, patients, and research participants. Psychologists are guided by principles of respect for autonomy, beneficence, and non-maleficence, which reflect Kantian values. For existentialists, the intrinsic value of the individual is tied to the idea of authenticity, living in accordance with one's true self and values, rather than succumbing to societal pressures or expectations. This concept of authenticity has been widely studied in psychology, particularly in relation to well-being and self-concept. A particularly interesting intersection between Kant and existentialism is their shared emphasis on moral and existential courage. Kant acknowledged that acting according to moral principles often requires courage, especially when such actions conflict with personal desires or societal expectations. Similarly, existentialists highlight the courage required to confront life's uncertainties, embrace freedom, and take responsibility for one's choices. This idea is central to existential therapy, which encourages clients to face their anxieties and make meaningful choices despite the challenges they may encounter. In psychological practice, the integration of Kantian and existentialist principles can be particularly valuable. Consider a client struggling with a moral dilemma, such as whether to prioritize their own happiness or the well-being of others. A Kantian approach might involve evaluating the ethical principles at stake and considering the universal implications of each choice. An existentialist approach, on the other hand, might focus on the client's subjective experience, helping them explore their values and confront the emotions associated with their decision. Together, these perspectives provide a comprehensive framework for understanding and addressing complex psychological challenges. Despite their differences, Kantian philosophy and existentialism converge on a fundamental truth. The human experience is defined by the interplay of freedom, responsibility, and moral agency. Both traditions invite us to reflect on our choices, consider the impact of our actions, and take ownership of our lives. For psychology students, these ideas offer valuable insights into the motivations, struggles, and aspirations that shape human behavior. Whether you are studying moral development, therapeutic practices, or personal growth, the convergence of Kantian and existentialist thought provides a rich foundation for understanding the complexities. We will explore the divergences between Kantian philosophy and existentialism, examining how their differences can deepen our understanding of freedom, morality, and the search for meaning. By comparing and contrasting these traditions, we can develop a more nuanced perspective on the philosophical and psychological dimensions of human existence. Divergences between Kantian thought and existentialism. Having explored the points of convergence between Kantian philosophy and existentialism, we now turn to their divergences. While both traditions emphasize human freedom and the role of individual agency, their approaches to morality, meaning, and the nature of existence differ significantly. For first-year psychology students, understanding these differences offers valuable insights into the diverse ways in which philosophy and psychology approach the complexities of human behavior and thought. These divergences highlight not only the tensions between structure and subjectivity, but also the opportunities for integrating these perspectives in the study of psychology. One of the most notable differences between Kantian philosophy and existentialism lies in their understanding of freedom. For Kant, freedom is deeply tied to reason and morality. It is the ability to act according to rational principles rather than being enslaved by desires or impulses. Kant's conception of freedom is inherently structured. It operates within the framework of the categorical imperative, which provides a universal guide for ethical behavior. In contrast, existentialism takes a more open-ended view of freedom. For existentialists, freedom is an unavoidable condition of existence. It is the sheer fact that we are always free to choose, even in the face of external constraints or internal doubts. Jean-Paul Sartre famously declared that humans are condemned to be free, underscoring the weight of this freedom and the responsibility it entails. Psychologically, this divergence has important implications for how we understand autonomy and decision-making. Kant's structured view of freedom aligns with theories of self-regulation and moral development, which emphasize the importance of aligning one's actions with rational principles and ethical standards. Existentialism, on the other hand, resonates with research on agency and self-determination, which explore the subjective experience of making choices and creating meaning in one's life. While Kant provides a clear framework for evaluating ethical behavior, existentialism embraces the ambiguity and complexity of human decision-making, encouraging individuals to take ownership of their choices even in the absence of the existentialists is their approach to morality. Kant's ethical system is built on the idea of universal principles that apply to all rational beings. His categorical imperative requires individuals to act in ways that could be willed as universal laws, ensuring that their actions are morally consistent and respectful of others' autonomy. This emphasis on universality reflects Kant's belief in the power of reason to guide ethical behavior, transcending the subjective preferences or emotions of any individual. In psychology, this aligns with research on deontological ethics, which focuses on rule-based approaches to moral decision-making. Existentialism, by contrast, rejects the idea of universal moral principles. Instead, it emphasizes the subjective nature of morality, arguing that individuals must create their own values and ethical frameworks based on their unique experiences and circumstances. For existentialists, morality is deeply personal. It emerges from the choices we make and the meaning we ascribe to our actions. This perspective is perhaps best exemplified by Friedrich Nietzsche, who famously declared that God is dead, signaling the collapse of traditional moral frameworks and the need for individuals to forge their own paths. In psychological terms, this emphasis on subjective morality aligns with theories of moral relativism, which explore how cultural and individual differences shape ethical reasoning. These contrasting views on morality raise important questions for psychology students. For example, how do we reconcile the tension between universal principles and individual experiences when addressing ethical dilemmas in therapy or research? Kant's philosophy offers a structured approach to resolving moral conflicts, emphasizing the importance of fairness, consistency, and respect for autonomy. Existentialism, on the other hand, encourages us to consider the unique context and subjective experience of each individual, recognizing that ethical decisions are often complex and multifaceted. This tension is evident in psychological practices such as ethical decision-making in therapy, where clinicians must balance professional guidelines with the specific needs and values where Kantian philosophy and existentialism diverge. For Kant, meaning is rooted in the pursuit of moral principles and the exercise of reason. He believed that living a meaningful life requires acting in accordance with one's duty and contributing to the greater good. This perspective aligns with psychological theories of eudaimonic well-being, which emphasize the importance of living in alignment with one's values and contributing to something larger than oneself. Existentialism, however, takes a more individualistic approach to meaning. Existentialists argue that life has no inherent meaning and that individuals must create their own purpose through their choices and actions. This idea is central to Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, a therapeutic approach that helps individuals find meaning even in the face of suffering or adversity. For psychology students, these differing perspectives highlight the diverse ways in which people construct and experience meaning in their lives. Kant and the existentialists also differ in their views on the role of emotion in human behavior. Kant's philosophy prioritizes reason over emotion, viewing the latter as a potential obstacle to moral decision-making. He argued that ethical behavior should be guided by rational principles, rather than by feelings or desires, which can be unpredictable and self-serving. In psychology, this perspective is reflected in cognitive approaches to emotion regulation, which emphasize the importance of rational thought in managing emotional responses. Existentialism, by contrast, embraces the full range of human emotions, including anxiety, despair, and joy, as essential aspects of the human experience. For existentialists, emotions are not obstacles to be overcome, but signals that invite us to reflect on our values, choices, and relationships. This perspective aligns with humanistic approaches to psychology, which emphasize the importance of embracing and understanding one's emotions as part of the journey towards self-actualization. Finally, Kant and existentialism differ in their treatment of uncertainty and ambiguity. Kant's philosophy offers a sense of stability and order, grounded in the belief that reason can provide clear answers to ethical and existential questions. This structured approach can be reassuring, especially in situations where moral clarity is needed. Existentialism, however, confronts uncertainty head-on, acknowledging that life is often unpredictable, ambiguous, and lacking in clear answers. For existentialists, the challenge is not to eliminate uncertainty, but to embrace it, finding meaning and purpose despite the lack of guarantees. In psychological terms, this approach aligns with research on tolerance for ambiguity, which explores how individuals cope with uncertainty and complexity. These divergences offer a rich framework for understanding the complexities of human thought and behavior. While Kant's philosophy provides a structured, rational approach to morality and meaning, existentialism reminds us of the deeply personal and often messy realities of living a human life. Together, these perspectives offer complementary insights that can inform both theoretical research and practical applications in psychology. As we move into the final section of this exploration, we will examine how Kantian philosophy and existentialism can be synthesized to address modern psychological challenges. By integrating the strengths of these traditions, we can develop a more comprehensive understanding of autonomy, morality, and meaning, offering valuable tools for navigating the complexities of the human experience. Kantian existentialism, a modern perspective. As we conclude our exploration of Kantian philosophy and existentialism, we find ourselves at the intersection of two profound intellectual traditions. On the one hand, Immanuel Kant offers a structured framework for understanding morality, freedom, and human dignity, grounded in the universality of reason and ethical principles. On the other hand, existentialism challenges us to confront the uncertainties of existence, emphasizing the subjective experience of freedom, authenticity, and meaning-making. While these traditions differ in their methods and priorities, they are not incompatible. In fact, when synthesized thoughtfully, Kantian existentialism provides a powerful lens through which modern psychology can address some of the most pressing challenges of our time. For psychology students, this synthesis offers a practical and theoretical foundation for understanding the complexities of human behavior. Both traditions share a commitment to human autonomy, emphasizing the capacity of individuals to shape their lives through choice and action. In Kantian terms, this autonomy is grounded in reason and the ability to act according to universal moral principles. From an existentialist perspective, autonomy involves the courage to confront uncertainty and take responsibility for defining one's own values and purpose. Together, these perspectives create a holistic understanding of autonomy that encompasses both rationality and subjectivity, offering valuable insights for fields such as counseling, moral psychology. Significant contributions of Kantian existentialism is its ability to address the psychological tension between structure and freedom. Modern psychology often grapples with this tension, as individuals seek a balance between adhering to societal norms and expressing their authentic selves. Kant provides a framework for navigating this tension by emphasizing the importance of moral principles that respect the dignity and autonomy of others. For example, in situations where personal desires conflict with ethical obligations, Kant's philosophy encourages individuals to prioritize universal principles, fostering fairness and social harmony. Existentialism, meanwhile, offers tools for exploring the subjective experience of these conflicts, helping individuals navigate their emotions, values, and motivations. This synthesis is particularly relevant in therapeutic settings, where clients often struggle to reconcile their personal goals with the expectations of others. In practical terms, Kantian existentialism has profound implications for psychological well-being. Research on self-determination theory, for instance, highlights the importance of autonomy, competence, and relatedness in fostering motivation and fulfillment. Kant's emphasis on rational autonomy aligns with the need for individuals to feel that their actions are guided by their own values and principles. Existentialism complements this by addressing the emotional and existential challenges that arise when individuals confront freedom, responsibility, and uncertainty. Together, these perspectives provide a comprehensive approach to understanding and promoting well-being, offering practical tools for helping individuals build meaningful lives. One area where Kantian existentialism is particularly impactful is in the study of moral development. As we have seen, Kant's philosophy provides a structured framework for evaluating ethical behavior, emphasizing the universality of moral principles. This approach is reflected in Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development, which describe how individuals progress from self-centered reasoning to principled ethical thinking. Existentialism, however, reminds us that moral development is not solely a cognitive process. It is also deeply personal and emotional. For example, an individual grappling with a moral dilemma may experience existential anxiety, questioning not only what is right, but also what kind of person they want to be. By integrating Kantian and existentialist insights, psychologists can develop more nuanced approaches to studying and also offers valuable tools for addressing existential concerns, such as the search for meaning and the fear of death. Viktor Frankl's logotherapy is a prime example of how these traditions can be combined in practice. Drawing on existentialist ideas, Frankl argued that individuals can find meaning even in the face of suffering by identifying their values and pursuing purposeful goals. At the same time, his emphasis on responsibility and ethical action reflects Kantian principles, encouraging individuals to live in accordance with their moral commitments. For psychology students, this integration provides a practical framework for helping clients navigate existential challenges, whether they are facing a major life transition, coping with loss, or searching for purpose. In addition to its therapeutic applications, Kantian existentialism offers a framework for addressing broader societal challenges. In an increasingly polarized world where moral disagreements and existential anxieties often fuel conflict, the principles of respect, autonomy, and authenticity provide a path toward greater understanding and connection. Kant's philosophy reminds us of the importance of treating others as ends in themselves, fostering empathy and mutual respect. Existentialism, meanwhile, encourages us to embrace the diversity of human experiences and to approach others with curiosity and compassion. Together, these traditions offer a roadmap for building more inclusive and empathetic communities, both within and beyond the field of psychology. As psychology students, you may find that Kantian existentialism offers insights that extend beyond the classroom. Whether you are studying cognitive processes, emotional regulation, or social dynamics, the themes of freedom, responsibility, and meaning are likely to emerge time and again. Kant's philosophy provides a structured foundation for understanding these themes, while existentialism invites you to explore their subjective and emotional dimensions. By integrating these perspectives, you can develop a more holistic understanding of human behavior, one that bridges the gap between reason and emotion. Kantian existentialism invites us to reflect on what it means to live a meaningful life. Kant's emphasis on moral principles challenges us to consider the impact of our actions on others, while existentialism reminds us of the importance of authenticity and self-expression. Together, these traditions encourage us to embrace the complexities of existence, finding balance between our responsibilities to others and our commitment to our own values and goals. For psychology students, this reflection is not merely an intellectual exercise, it is an opportunity to deepen your understanding of yourself and your potential to contribute to the well-being of others. In closing, Kantian existentialism provides a rich and nuanced framework for exploring the human condition. It bridges the rational and the emotional, the universal and the personal, offering insights that are both profound and practical. As you continue your studies, I encourage you to draw on these philosophical traditions, integrating their insights into your understanding of psychology and your approach to the challenges and opportunities of modern life. In so doing, you will not only deepen your knowledge, but also enrich your ability to make meaningful contributions to the world around you.